One of the mitzvot in the Torah is basar bechalav, meat in milk. That's how it's translated. Basar bechalav, that's the phrase. Like we always have phrases of things. Now in the Torah it doesn't say that. It says, Lo tevashel gedi b'chalev imo, shall not cook the kid goat in its mother's milk. Now, basar bechalav. Why didn't the rabbi say chalav bibasar? Why say it that way? Because that's the flow of the pasuk. It was gedi, which is the basar, bachalev imo. So bachalav. So they write. So it became a phrase basar bechalav. In fact, even the unkelos in Lot Vashel Gedi, he writes la techlun. You shall not eat basar bachalav. So he made that phrase. Now, part of the 613, we want to know, where is this coming out of? So you have one mitzvah called basar bechalav. Now, really, it makes two out of the 613, because there's one for eating, and one for cooking, and one for eating. Now, what happened to the pleasure one? We say you should not have meaning benefit, hana'ah. Bishul, achila, and hana'ah, cooking, eating, and benefit. We said it's written 3 times. In fact, it's written in 2 in Shemot, in Mishpatim, and in Kitisa, and then in Devarim, in Re'eh. So if it's written 3 times, how come it doesn't make it to the 3 of the 613? So that's how it is. That's how the Maimonides also shows it, the Rambam. Really, pleasure or hana'ah, benefit, is really a subcategory of eating. So it's really cooking and eating. And part of eating is not to benefit, because it's all type of pleasure. Pleasure, eating, and pleasure is really like one thing. So that's how it would be. So it makes it only out of 2 of the 613. Now it means cooking together, and it means eating cooked meat and milk, and benefit of cooked meat and milk. Because that's why it says, Lo tivashel, you shall not cook, in each of the pisukim, meaning it's the same words, to show that it's all about cooked stuff. So now we have one, it's not one of the 613 because it's 2. So we would say it's one category of the 613 mitzvot. Just like tefillin has 2, but it's one category called tefillin. Then you have chametz. There's 6 of them, but it's one thing called chametz. So when we're talking categorical words, so it's called basar bechalav. Now, where does this fit in all the Torah? What am I just going to remember 100 or 200 loose phrases? How am I going to remember everything? There's basar bechalav, there's chametz. How am I going to remember what the whole list is? And how many are there? So we have to start seeing the background of it. Where does basar bechalav fit in something of the background of it? And that would be, it's a food that's forbidden. And the Rambam, very nicely for us, one of his great ideas how he made his work, it seems so simple, but it's such a brainstorm that he came up with. That's why we're even still using it till today. He wrote the category. He wrote ma'achalot asurot, forbidden foods. And under forbidden foods, he wrote all the forbidden foods. You shouldn't eat blood, dam, chelev, the fat, meat and milk, all the non-kosher animals, whatever they are that make it of the 613 count. So he showed where basar bechalav fits. It fits into all the forbidden foods. In fact, we coined the phrase with the word kashrut, kosher. All the kosher laws, one of them is meat and milk. So we're getting more of a category now to put the meat and milk in. We want to put it in something, in a category meaning. So now you have forbidden foods or kashrut. But where does kashrut fit now? What's its larger picture? So everything has to stem back from the 10 Commandments, the Aseret Dibirot. And lo tachmod, you shall not covet, like chemda, desire. that would be where the kashrut laws fall into. Because we know the 10 Commandments have the 613 all coming out of them. So the kashrut laws come out of lo tachmod, like the Rasag, Rav Saadia Gaon, writes in his book, in the end, in that Azhara poem, that even Rashi brings down in one of the Pesukim there. So he says that. This is not made up. So the kashrut laws is part of lo tachmod. Now, what does lo tachmod have to do with kashrut? Because again, we said benefiting, feeling good, pleasure in eating. Okay, that makes sense. Now, if we want to see more about it, so when you're looking in the Sefirot system, so like we've said many times, and you can look this up in the 10 plagues section, where we said all the 10s basically match up. The 10 Sefirot, the 10 Ma'amarot of creation, the 10 plagues, and the 10 commandments all line up. Now, the way the 10 commandments flow is you have the first 3, which is Keter, Chochmah, and Binah, and then the bottom 7 go backwards. So 1, 2, 3, number 4 is Shabbat. So Shabbat will be Malchut, Malketah, which is going backwards, 10, then 10, 9, 8, 7. And Malchut, the next one would be Yesod. Yesod is respect your parents, because that's Yesod, reproductive system, and that's already the parents who had us. So you see the flow of it. And the systems, of course, fit into them. Like we said, Yesod would be reproductive system. Malchut would be skeletal system, because it holds up the rest of the body, or Shabbat holds up the rest of the week, without getting into all that. And the frogs, which was Yesod, they were multiplying and reproducing, so about reproducing. And Malchut, which is the support system. The Nile was the support of Egypt, and God killed the support of Egypt, made it bloody like he killed it, to show I'm the support. So that's how it all flows. And we have a list of this at the 10 plagues, if you want to look it up. And now just going to lo tachmod, being chesed. Chesed would be that, and then givurah, because it's going backwards. The first 3, and then the bottom 7. So chesed would be number 1 from the bottom, because it's the 4th one. Okay, anyway. Now, so what does chesed have to do with kashrut? That's the idea now, because we're plugging in lo tachmod to chesed. So now it's very simple, and it fits like a glove. Chesed is feeding people. When you feed people and you give people. And that's what kashrut is. Now, kashrut, you're not feeding anybody, but there's 2 things. Feeding is about feeding others, and then feeding myself, and the right way. So feeding in general, either you or me, is still about chesed. Now, how is the circulatory system, which that's the system that is the chesed, how does that work? So you have that the heart that's pumping blood and sending nutrients to all the parts of the body. If somebody eats something, the heart can't take the coarse part of that food that you ate. So it splits it up, and it sends, the circulatory is circulating the right nutrients to the heart from the food you ate, the delicate part of it, and to the brain, and each thing, the coarse part of the food can go to other parts. And that's what it does. So it's feeding the body, and it's feeding it appropriately. So that's what chesed, so we have to be a chesed machine, because we're going to do the 10 commandments and be the 10 commandments. It's a whole nother class. That's what we're here for. To live and live just like this body lives. The world has to work, and we're the little cells inside. So I'm not going to wait for cells and nutrients to be given to me like it happens in my body. I'm going to be the one to give it. So I'm going to give the nutrients to the other guy as a chesed. And then when it comes to this cell, I'm going to put the appropriate nutrients in me. Let the one who's not Jewish, he can have the pig and the other stuff that's the coarse material. But Jews, who are like the heart, we say, has to get the delicate stuff. So that's the kosher materials, the kosher foods. So we have to be the one to give us the kosher food. We're acting like the circulatory system. So chesed is about feeding others and feeding myself appropriately. See how it's all one idea at the end. So now we figured out now where basar bechalav fits in the 10 commandments, but now we want to get more specific because the 10 split up into 10. Meaning, let's say you have lo tachmod, which is chesed, but now chesed itself will have keter, chokhmah, binah, and all the 10. Or, I am Hashem, don't have other gods before me, until lo tachmod, you shall not covet. So it's almost like a mix and a match. You're going to have, you shall not, let's say you shall keep the Shabbat, and you shall not steal, which is like a sefirah of a sefirah. See, so what would that be? And if you do that, it means there'd be 100 basic laws, because 10 for 10. And basically there's about 100 phrase words of mitzvot. Like when we said chametz, it has 6 of them. There's about 100 phrases, all of them having a few, making up 613. So those are the 100. It's all the tens of tens. So let's see where basar bechalav fits, just to see an example of it. Now, we have so we're in lo tachmod. Now, lo tachmod has 10 slots. Where in lo tachmod's chart, which has 10, do we put basar bechalav? So it would be lo tinaf. Lo tinaf is you shall not commit adultery, or mix. You shall not mix people, or mix animals. Like when you say an animal shouldn't work, 2 different animal species shouldn't work together, shouldn't mate. And also clothing shouldn't mix, like sha'atnez. These are all part of lo tinaf, but in each chart of its own. So basar bechalav, in the food chart, the forbidden mixture of it puts it in lo tinaf slot, in the lo tachmod chart. You see how that's working? It's a forbidden mixture. You can't mix people, you can't mix animals, you can't mix clothing, you can't mix food. Forbidden foods, whatever Hashem made as the commandment. So look how beautiful, how nice. Basar bechalav is in the lo tachmod, and it's of the lo tinaf. So we can slot it right out. It's in the Netzach of the Chesed. Netzach sheba Chesed. That's how you would say it, just like when we talk about Sefirat HaOmer, a Sefirah of a Sefirah. Such clarity. And it makes sense, because it's food, and it's the mixture of food. Now imagine you had all the 613, or at least 100 phrases, all lined up and mapped out like that. You wouldn't even have to memorize it. You'd know it, because you just go by the sefirot one by one. Let's see, keter, chokhmah, this means that means that. It must be this mitzvah, it must be that mitzvah. And you got your 100 down pat in your head. Now, which one has 4, which one has 2, which one has 6? This maybe we have to find a way also maybe to remember that. There has to be a logic to it also in the system for whatever it is. But now we see a nice way of organizing all the 613 mitzvot.